everyone, so as you may know, this week is Eating Disorders Awareness Week, so we've put together a video answering some frequently asked questions about supporting friends with eating disorders. I hope you find it helpful. Hi everyone, so today what we're going to be doing is answering a load of questions that come up when people are wondering how they can best support their friends with an eating disorder. And hopefully providing some answers for those. So I'm here with Lauren.
Hi, my name's Lauren and I'm a member of the Student Minds Executive Committee. While I was studying, I ran the support groups for students with eating disorders for about a year and a half. And while I was doing that, I also ran workshops for students who want to support their friends or family member with an eating disorder. So I'm here today to help Ellie answer some of those questions.
Great! So one thing people worry about a lot is how they can spot the sort of signs of an eating disorder.
Yeah, and often people think it's quite easy to spot an eating disorder based on someone's physical appearance, but more often than not, that's not the case, and that certainly isn't the case for everybody. So some other things you might need to look out for if you are worried about someone is maybe if they're struggling to concentrate or look distracted or tense around meal times, or avoiding social situations that involve food, or maybe exercising more than normal. Those kinds of things are also good to look out for.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, and also things like mood swings tend to be quite common, and fatigue. Yeah. So just have a look for those. If you want to find out more about this, have a look at the Spotting the Signs page on the Student Minds website. You can just click here and it will direct you to there, so go have a look at that. So if someone is spotting those signs and they're worried about their friend, should they say something to them?
You should always definitely say something if you're worried. It's very important for your friend to know that you're there and you've noticed that there might be something wrong, and you're going to be there to support them if there is something that they're struggling with at the moment. And even if immediately they're not ready to talk to you straight away, it's good for them to know that when they are ready, if they do want to talk, you are there and you won't be judging them.
Yeah, I think another thing to consider is don't get too confrontational. Yeah. It's quite likely that the first time you talk about it, or they might not be willing to talk about it back with you. So don't push it, and they'll still know that when they are ready to talk about it, you'll be there.
Definitely, and it's also really important to maintain that normal friendship that you had before and not make your friendship purely just about the eating disorder. Still carry on inviting them around for tea or coming around for a movie or something. It's really important to keep that friendship alive, so it's just not always just about the eating disorder.
Definitely. So if your friend doesn't feel ready to access professional support, what can you sort of do in that situation?
Yeah, that's often the case, especially if at the very early stages of recovery, your friend may not really admit that they have a problem or admit that there's a need to change. That's where you as a friend can actually be really useful and really important. You can do this thing called motivational interviewing, which is kind of a way of talking and listening with your friend to help them explore their feelings and thoughts about their lives and changes, and hopefully make them take the first step in the right direction.
So motivational interviewing is a really important tool. If you want to find out more about that, check the other videos in the playlist, and we did 2 videos on the methods of motivational interviewing, so definitely go and check those out. I think another thing that's good to think about is that you can help with little small things as soon as they start to think about support. So for example, you can provide moral support, offer to go with them to their first appointment, just small things like that.
Definitely, very helpful.
So how can someone go about supporting their friend or housemate during mealtimes?
Well, that's a really good question, because mealtimes can be some of the most stressful times for you and your friend and your friendship. So first thing, it's really important to make sure that you've asked your friend what would be most helpful for them during mealtimes, because it can be different for different people, and it's really important to make sure you have that conversation not around mealtimes, because that's when everyone will be feeling a lot more relaxed. Secondly, it's really also important to make sure that the situation doesn't change how you normally and when you normally have your meals. Thirdly, during the meals, essentially you need to keep calm and carry on. If there is any crisis moment or anything that comes up, try and get through the meal and then discuss it later, again, when everyone's feeling a bit more relaxed. And finally, try and keep the conversation flowing. It might be easier to have the TV on or the radio on to keep them distracted, but just try and keep the two of you engaged throughout the whole meal.
So this is a really difficult question. If your friend asks for reassurance about their appearance, what do you say?
You're right, that is the most difficult question, and it might seem that the easiest thing to do is just to say no, you don't look fat, and brush it aside, but that person's going to keep coming back to you and keep asking those same questions, and that anxiety is going to keep resurfacing. So what is actually really important for you to do is to not actually make any comment about their appearance, and then instead just listen empathetically and support your friend and try and explore those emotions that they might be feeling.
So I think some of the techniques that you can use for that are to really hone down on the emotions that are being used, so where the underlying fear comes from, and also reflect on the terminology they're using. So saying something, for example, like, I notice that you use the word fat a lot, yet I see otherwise. I wonder what that word means for you.
Yeah, definitely, although this is really hard to do.
Mm-hmm. So we've already talked a little bit about avoiding making comments on their appearance. Mm-hmm. What sort of things will be triggering for them?
Yeah, so as well as what we mentioned before, it could also be a problem even if you want to say a positive statement about how your friend is looking healthier than they were before. That could also be triggering for your friend, as they may not understand what that means to them. If they're still in recovery, they may feel like they've started looking fat again or something. So it's just a really good idea not to make any kind of comment on someone's appearance, whether you think they're looking underweight or looking healthier. But if you do want to make a positive compliment about your friend, it might be a good idea just to say something nice about the outfit they're wearing or their hair, because that can make them feel good about themselves but take the focus away from their bodies and how they feel about their bodies. It's also a good idea to avoid other topics of conversation in general, like maybe if you exercised a bit more that day or you missed a meal, just kind of not really talk about those kind of things around them, as they may find that triggering. Also any kind of talk about calories or the new fad diets, it may start them thinking in their old patterns or to start engaging in those negative behaviours again. So it's probably a good idea to avoid that as much as you can, although understandably they may come up and you may have to talk about them at some point.
I think the very basic general rule is to try and remember to focus on thoughts and feelings rather than behaviours when you do have to tackle those difficult topics. Mm-hmm. A lot of social events do tend to revolve around food. How can you sort of work around that?
Yeah, so as you mentioned before, it is important to still maintain that normal friendship with your friend, despite the fact that you might be having to support them as well. So even if these social events do keep coming up and your friend does keep refusing to come to them, it's important to keep inviting them and help them feel loved and included, so that when they do feel ready to come along and join you again, that they'll be included and accepted. And
bearing that in mind, also focus on baby steps. So what they'll probably want to start with is just going for coffee with you, rather than some big group of people having a large meal. One thing that's vital is to remember that your own mental health is really important. So you need to remember to support yourself. And how can you do that when things are tough?
Yeah, so as you said, it is a really tough thing to support a friend with an eating disorder, so it's really important to maintain your own normal hobbies and interests and have your other relationships with friends and family members, and take time out for yourself and relax and do things to help you. Also, as I keep saying, keep that relationship with your friend as normal as possible and try and separate out your friendship from the eating disorder. So make sure you do carry on talking about your hobbies, your interests, everyday life, celebrities, all those kinds of things. Also, what is really important to remember is that you're not going to be able to fix your friend's eating disorder, and it can make you feel quite helpless sometimes, but you being there to support them and to be a close friend when they need you is actually an amazing thing.
And I think also what's sometimes helpful for you to remain aware of is that this isn't just for your benefit. Firstly, they need to develop the confidence to deal with their own problems, so you giving them a bit of space when you need it is also going to benefit them. And also, it would be really great for them to have a positive role model of someone who's really mentally healthy, and that's something that you could really help out with.
And finally, it's really important that you get this support during this time, because, as I said, it is really difficult to support someone with an eating disorder. So maybe if you have a friend who's separate from the situation that you could talk to and confide in, or if there's a peer supporter at your college or at your university, they can help provide you with the support that you need during this time. Sometimes it's a good idea to try and understand a bit more about what your friend might be going through. Where can we find that kind of information?
Yes. So on the Student Minds website there's a whole section on understanding eating disorders, which looks at everything from spotting the signs, the causes and triggers, like different types of eating disorder, and gives you more advice about how you can support your friend. Also, there's a resource where young people who have experience of eating disorders themselves have talked about what their friends did to help support them. So you can take advice from that and gain confidence in your own ability to help your friend. So as we talked about at the beginning, you've got a lot of experience with the Student Minds support groups and workshops. Mm-hmm. So for someone looking for more help around their campus, what can Student Minds do for them?
So firstly, Student Minds runs support groups for students with eating disorders. So anyone who's suffering from or has suffered from eating disorder can go along, and it basically provides you with a safe pro-recovery environment to talk about anything that might be on your mind that week. And in each group there'll be 2 trained group facilitators who are there to facilitate the conversation and make sure it is safe and pro-recovery. Also, Student Minds runs Supporting Supporters workshops. These happen usually about once a term, and these are for students who have a friend or family member who might be suffering from an eating disorder and want to learn more about how they can support them. So we'll cover things like what we covered today. We'll discuss topics which a friend might find triggering and how to rephrase questions so that they aren't. We'll discuss how you could help your friend find professional help, and we'll also go into a bit more depth about motivational interviewing.
And if you can't get to one of the workshops, please do check out the rest of this video series. We've done a load of videos which sort of follow the model of the Supporting Supporters workshop and talk in more depth about all the things that Lauren just mentioned. So I really recommend you check out that resource. So hopefully we've addressed some questions that you've maybe wanted answers to in the past. Thank you so much, Lauren, for joining me on this.
No problem.
And please do subscribe to the Student Minds YouTube channel because we have lots of exciting things coming up. Thanks for watching. Bye!